I walked into the law office in Austin, and Lauren was already seated like she owned the place. She sat by the window in a pale blue suit, heels crossed neatly at the ankle, a legal pad in front of her she hadn't written a word on. Just sat there, one hand on the table, the other curled around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. She was the kind of woman who learned early how to hold still and make people uncomfortable. No one had said she'd be here. I stopped just inside the door. "Didn't know you were attending," I said. She looked up at me like I'd interrupted something. "Evan couldn't make it," she said. "I'm here on his behalf." I turned to John Marshall, the attorney handling my brother's estate. We weren't close, John and I, but I knew him through Henry. Straight shooter, conservative dresser. Always seemed like the kind of man who measured his words before handing them over. He stepped forward, hand out. "Mr. Reynolds, good to see you. If you'd come in." I shook his hand. Cold fingers. His grip wasn't weak, just restrained. He looked over at Lauren like he was still debating something. Then back to me. "Would you mind taking a seat? I have a few instructions from your brother. Some are for the formal record. Some are not." I sat across from Lauren. She didn't smile again. Her eyes tracked me like she was waiting to see how much I knew. Her face was calm, unreadable, but the tension was in her posture. Something about how she held her shoulders, too stiff. John cleared his throat. "We'll begin shortly. First, a clarification. Evan has provided a power of attorney authorizing Mrs. Chun here." "Mrs. Varela," she interrupted, correcting him. "I never changed my name." John gave a small nod. "Apologies. Authorizing Mrs. Varela to attend in his place." "That's noted. However," he opened a drawer and took out a sealed envelope. Thick paper. The kind you'd use when you didn't trust email. "This is from your brother, dated a month before his passing. His instructions were very specific." He looked at Lauren. "I'll need to speak with Mr. Reynolds privately." She didn't move. "This concerns Evan's inheritance." "No," John said, calm as stone. "This concerns William Reynolds alone. Please step outside." She sat there for a second too long, then stood, pushed her chair back deliberately, collected her pad, untouched coffee, and walked out without a word. The door closed soft behind her. John waited until the latch clicked. Then he passed me the envelope. "Your brother came to see me the first week of May," he said. "No appointment, just showed up. Said if anything happened to him, anything, I was to give this to you." My hands didn't shake, but I could feel my pulse in my fingers. I turned the envelope over. Henry's signature was across the seal. No return address, just my name in his writing. I looked up. "He say why?" John nodded, slowly. "He said he had suspicions, that he didn't want to involve police. Not yet. Said he trusted you to do what he couldn't." "Which was what, exactly?" "To look without blinking." I didn't open it there. Not in that office, not with Lauren 10 feet away behind a closed door. I slipped the envelope into my coat pocket and sat through the rest of the meeting. The reading of the estate, the dry list of assets, properties, obligations. Lauren returned when John called her back in. She smiled again, this time more polished, like nothing had happened, but she kept glancing at my coat pocket. That night I drove home slow, left the highway early, took the back roads through Hayes County, past the dry fields and mesquite. The kind of drive that lets your thoughts settle before they boil. Henry had been my younger brother by 3 years. We grew up in Wichita, Kansas. Same room until I left for college. He followed me into trades, woodwork for him, metal for me. We both hated office jobs. Started a fabrication business in our 20s. Moved to Texas in the 90s when we got our first big contract out of San Antonio. Built everything from custom doors to spiral staircases to welded balustrades that could survive a hurricane. Henry had a lighter touch with clients. I was the welder, the machinist, the one who made things exact. He smoothed things over when quotes went bad or suppliers screwed up. Our shop, Reynolds Custom, sat just off I-35. In a cinderblock building we remodeled ourselves. 10 men worked for us. Some of them for over 2 decades. We never argued about money. Never needed lawyers between us. He loved my daughter Emma like his own. Took her to Astros games. Built her a treehouse that had real windows and a skylight. He was at every recital, every graduation. When she got into UT, Henry cried harder than I did. Evan came along when she was 23. MBA student. Clean haircut. Too smooth, I thought. Henry didn't say much, but I could tell he had doubts too. Still, he showed up. Bought them furniture. Paid off one of Evan's student loans. Quiet support. That was his style. He even helped them buy their first house. Outside Dallas. A big spread they couldn't have afforded without him. When Emma got pregnant with their first, Henry paid for a renovation, nursery, new HVAC, all done through our contacts. No markup. Just love. That's why the betrayal hit different. That's why I didn't open the envelope right away. I waited until the house was dark. Made a pot of coffee I didn't need. Sat at the kitchen table with the overhead light off. Just the small bulb under the cabinet humming soft. That old envelope felt heavier than it should have. I broke the seal with my penknife. Inside, a flash drive. A stack of documents. A single page with Henry's handwriting. Bill, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Lauren is dangerous. I overheard her in the garage with a man. They talked about money. About you. About how old men don't live forever. That was the line. My stomach dropped. Henry had hired a private investigator. That came next. A note explaining what was on the drive, what to look for in the documents. Photos. Screenshots. Financial records. Names. One of them circled in red. Allison Moore, real name. Lauren had used aliases before. Multiple identities. 2 prior husbands. Both deceased. Both estates settled in her favor. Both deaths ruled accidental, one medical, one an in-home fall. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Somewhere upstairs, the water heater clicked. Outside, the wind moved through the cedars like it was trying to remember something. Henry had known. Had seen it before I did. He tried to warn me. And now he was gone. Found him slumped near the trailhead at Old Settlers Park, just off the path. Hands still clutching the strap of his water bottle. No signs of struggle. No trauma. EMS pronounced him at the scene. The report said, massive myocardial infarction. He was 61. The funeral was quiet. Henry never wanted fanfare. A few clients sent flowers. A few of the old shop guys came in their work boots, eyes wet, hands calloused. Emma held herself together until the last hymn. I kept my hand on her shoulder. She gripped it once, then let go. Evan gave the eulogy, said all the right things, spoke about craftsmanship, integrity, loyalty, said Henry was the kind of man who remembered birthdays and showed up with tools when things broke. Said he taught him how to patch drywall, balance a joint, fix a leak without calling a guy. People nodded. They believed him. Lauren sat beside Emma, one hand folded over hers. She wore a black dress, modest, no jewelry. Cried once. Dabbed her eyes with a linen handkerchief. Everything textbook. But I watched her. The way she kept scanning the room. The way she leaned in to whisper something to Evan mid-service. The way her eyes passed over me like I was a formality. That evening, after everyone had left, Evan found me on the back porch. I'd stayed at Emma's house, helped clean up. Emma was upstairs with the baby. Lauren had gone to lie down, apparently drained. Evan lit a cigarette. He never used to smoke. He said, Henry, he thought something was wrong with Lauren. I didn't say anything. I never told Emma, he said. Didn't want to upset her. What did he say? That she had secrets. That she lied about money. That I should be careful. I thought he was being dramatic. He flicked ash into a planter. I'm starting to wonder. I looked at him. Really looked. His eyes were glassy. Tired. The shine he used to have gone. Do you trust her? I asked. He took a long drag. Didn't answer. A week later, I was back in Austin for the official will reading. Henry had made John Marshall executor years ago, old friend of the family, handled our business contracts when we incorporated. I arrived early. Expected Evan to be there. Maybe Emma, too. Instead, Lauren was waiting again. this time with documents. She handed one to John when he came out, a notarized power of attorney. Evan's signature, dated 2 weeks prior. He's asked me to represent him, she said. John didn't argue, just nodded, took the form, told her to have a seat. She chose the same chair as last time. I stayed standing. Let's get this over with, I said. John sat, opened the folder. The basics came first. The division of assets, the shop share, the lake property. Henry had left Evan and Emma equal portions of the business, with a stipulation that any sale or restructuring had to be approved by me. The house went to Emma. The bank accounts evenly split. Then John paused. There's one final item, he said. Private. Lauren raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, Mr. Reynolds, John said, looking at me now. Your brother left something for you alone. He was clear about the terms. Lauren didn't move. Please step out, John said. This will take 5 minutes. She didn't like it, not one bit, but she stood, smiled like she wasn't bothered, walked out slowly, closed the door behind her. John waited until the latch clicked. Then he reached under the table, opened a small safe built into the cabinet, and pulled out a second envelope, thicker than the first, sealed with wax. Your brother brought this to me exactly 4 weeks before his death, John said. He said if anything happened, accident, illness, anything that raised questions, I was to give it to you in private. He slid it across. I didn't open it. Not there. Just nodded. Slipped it into my inner coat pocket. Then John said something that changed everything. He feared for your life, Mr. Reynolds. He told me to say that to you directly. He said, quote, if Bill ends up in a hospital or dead, she'll inherit everything. She'll do it quietly, carefully, and no one will question it unless he does. I left without saying much, thanked him, drove straight home, didn't play music, didn't stop for food. When I got back, I locked the doors, pulled the blinds, poured a glass of water, sat at my desk and opened the envelope. Inside, another flash drive, a set of printed photos, financial records, a manila folder with bank statements from 3 different institutions, printouts of social media pages, screenshots of email headers, and one handwritten note in Henry's tidy block script. Bill, the man she's meeting is not her cousin, not a friend. He's law enforcement, but not clean. I think they're planning something. Be careful what you say. She's always listening. There was more. She's using Evan. Meds, manipulation, pressure. I found pills in his shaving kit he couldn't explain. Talked to his old doctor. Prescriptions weren't current. She switched pharmacies. Paid in cash. The private investigator confirmed she's been through this twice before. Different names, different cities, but always the same pattern. Older men, money, legal entanglements, then death. She's smart, polished, never loud. Plays the victim when she needs to. You're next, Bill. She's already talking about managing the estate once you're gone. I heard her. She thinks no one's listening. The cops won't help. Not without something big. And I don't want Emma hurt. That's why I came to you. She'll try to charm you, guilt you, control you. Don't let her. Henry had attached a list of dates and times. Locations where Lauren, or Allison Moore as the investigator named her, had met with a man named David Monroe, officer, Dallas PD. Suspended in 2016 for misconduct. Reinstated quietly. Now working in financial crimes. They weren't subtle. Cafe meetings. Late-night car rendezvous. Hotel bookings under alias names. All documented. Photos included. One of them, Lauren and Monroe outside a motel in Fort Worth. Her hand on his chest. His hand on her hip. The timestamp was 2 weeks before Henry died. I sent the files to an old friend of mine. Works federal now. DA task force, but with cross-agency contacts. I kept it vague. Just said I needed background on a man named Monroe, and on a woman with multiple aliases tied to suspicious inheritance patterns. He called me the next morning. You in danger? He asked. Maybe. Then we play it like she's winning. You give her what she expects. What does that mean? We make you sick. On paper. We forged a diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic. Confirmed via falsified scan reports, prescription records, and fake lab work from a real clinic whose administrator owed us a favor. I changed my will dramatically, left everything to Emma, bypassing Lauren and Evan entirely. Then we leaked it. I knew it worked when I got the call. Lauren. Bill, she said, her voice soft. Evan's been asking about you. He's worried. We all are. Why don't you come for dinner this weekend? Nothing formal. Just family. I played along. Said I'd love that. We set it for Friday. 6:30. Their house. I showed up early. We were wired. My friend arranged surveillance. Unmarked car down the block. Audio transmitters hidden in my watch and belt buckle. Nothing fancy. Enough to catch words. Motions. Evan met me at the door. He looked different. Eyes clear. Shoulders tense. Jaw tight. He pulled me into the garage. Shut the door behind us. I've been off the pills for a week, he whispered. She doesn't know. I've been flushing them. My throat tightened. She's going to poison you tonight, he said. She told Monroe it's the cleanest way. No trace. He held up his phone, screen already recording. Her boyfriend's a dirty cop. He knows about the sting. They're flipping the plan. Tonight's the trap, but for you. Then he said the line I'll never forget. She already plated the food. And right then the door creaked open. Lauren stood there, 2 steaming plates in her hands. She froze. And in that second, everything changed. Lauren stood there holding those 2 plates like nothing was wrong. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans, steam rising off the surface, rich and familiar. A smell meant to lower your guard. But Evan's eyes told the truth. He hadn't rehearsed any of this. There was no plan beyond survival. He glanced at me, at the plates, then back to her. I saw the moment she realized he was sober, present, not drugged, not compliant. Her expression shifted just slightly. The way someone looks when the game they thought they were winning suddenly turns. She placed the plates on the workbench, calmly, as if dinner in the garage was normal. I thought we'd eat out here, she said. Quiet. No baby crying. Evan's hand went to his phone, still recording. Lauren, he said, voice steady. This is over. She looked at him, head tilted. Over. We know who you are. Allison. We know what you've done. Nothing changed in her posture. But her right hand dropped just slightly toward her coat pocket. I shifted my stance, blocking her path to Evan. Then I said it, slow and even. Mrs. Moore, this is Corporal Zhao. Please put the plates down and show your hands. It was my belt buckle, rigged to play a short looped message. Zhao's voice, recorded earlier, meant to buy time, to shift the balance. She froze, for real this time. Then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled, wide open, amused, and in one quick motion, she hurled the plates at us. They shattered against the cement floor. The meat hit my boots, hot and slick. Evan jumped back. I caught a whiff, bitter, chemical, something wrong. The scent of bleach mixed with ammonia and something metallic underneath. She ran. Out the side door, down the yard. Fast. Barefoot. I shouted, Go! And Evan bolted after her. By the time I reached the street, unmarked cars had already boxed her in. 2 agents tackled her near the neighbor's hedge. She screamed, kicked, tried to spit in one of their faces, but they cuffed her fast, got her into the back of the car. I stood on the curb, breathing heavy, watching. She never looked back. Across town, David Monroe was picked up at his apartment. He didn't resist. Too smart for that. He asked for a lawyer the second they cuffed him. Inside his car, burner phones, unregistered medication samples, 3 forged IDs. Inside his apartment, documents linking him to 2 other estates in different states, both involving women tied to aliases used by Lauren. RCMP and DEA shared everything with local law enforcement. Within 12 hours, search warrants were executed on bank accounts, storage units, A post office box registered under a company Lauren had consulted for. The paper trail unraveled quick. But it wasn't enough. We needed proof of murder. Henry's autopsy had been ruled inconclusive. Natural causes with potential contributing factors. But with Monroe in custody, a new toxicology panel was ordered. Digitalis. Same compound used in a 2009 case in Oregon, Lauren's first husband. Back then she'd gone by Marissa Dale. Same M.O. Wealthy man, mid-60s, accidental overdose of a medication he wasn't prescribed. Estate passed cleanly to spouse. No charges filed. We had our pattern now. A clean path of quiet deaths. No fingerprints, just silence. This time, silence broke. The court proceedings took months. Lauren pled not guilty, smiled through arraignment, hired a slick lawyer out of Houston who called the investigation a witch hunt orchestrated by a paranoid welder and a son with mental health issues. The defense tried to paint Evan as unstable, claimed he'd fabricated the recordings, said the flash drives had been tampered with. But it didn't hold. We had the raw files. We had timestamps. We had digital trails from her IP addresses. And most importantly, we had Evan's blood test from 3 weeks before the arrest. Benzodiazepines, barbiturates, mood stabilizers he had never been prescribed. Enough to keep him groggy, compliant, confused, but not dead. Evan took the stand, testified to 3 years of isolation, manipulation, being told he was forgetful, overworked, not well. Lauren had handled all the finances, chosen all the doctors, set all the appointments. He just signed. I sat in the second row every day, listened as my daughter testified to Emma, holding back tears. She'd never suspected anything. Said Lauren always played the role perfectly. Brought over soup when Emma was sick. Organized baby showers. Smiled in every photo. That's what made it so hard. People like Lauren don't look like monsters. They look like family. When the verdict came, she didn't flinch. Guilty on all counts. 2 counts of murder. 3 counts of attempted murder. 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. Sentencing was set for the following month. David Monroe cut a deal. Gave up years of dirty dealings in exchange for a lighter sentence. He's doing 12 in federal now. Probably won't serve half. But Lauren? Life. No parole. Not for the murders. For the web. The long con. The attempt to erase 3 lives and walk away smiling. We buried Henry again. Not literally, but in truth. A new headstone. One that read. He paid attention when no one else did. The lake property stayed in the family. Emma visits sometimes. Evan's not ready yet. Too many memories. He's in therapy. Doing better. We talk every Sunday now. Eat together. He's clean. Clear-eyed. Learning to trust again. The shop's still running. Reynolds and Reynolds now. I hired 2 new welders. One of them was trained by Henry years ago. Said he owed him his career. I keep Henry's hammer on the wall. The handle's worn smooth. I don't use it. Just look at it some mornings before I open. One night, 2 months after the sentencing, I got a letter. No return address. Postmark. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Inside, a folded sheet of paper. No note. Just a photo. Henry and me 20 years ago. Back when the shop was new. Both of us squinting in the sun. Arms crossed. Leaning against the first set of double gates we ever built. On the back, written in block letters, "You saved us both." He'd be proud. That's all. I didn't recognize the handwriting. Didn't need to. Some truths don't need names. I tell them no. What I feel is quieter. Like a room after someone's walked out and closed the door. Not slammed, just shut it soft. You hear the click. You sit there, still. That's what I feel. The anger burned through me in the first weeks. That sharp kind that wakes you up at 3 a.m. Heart pounding, mouth dry. Then it dulled. Settled. Got replaced by something more useful, clarity. Henry saw the danger before any of us did. And he acted. Not with violence or drama. He didn't stage a confrontation. Didn't shout into a void. He documented, collected, waited, trusted me. That trust saved our lives. The hardest part wasn't Lauren, or Monroe, or the lawyers. It wasn't even the image of Henry on that park trail, lying alone in the early morning sun while joggers passed, not knowing he'd been taken. It was Emma, watching her try to piece her world back together without shattering her reflection. She told me, one night over coffee, I thought she was my friend. I nodded. So did Henry. I trusted her with everything, she said. My son, my home, my marriage. I didn't say what I was thinking. That trust, when misplaced, is a dangerous thing. That predators don't come in costumes. They come as comfort. Evan moved out of that house. Too many memories. Too much rot behind the drywall, so to speak. He bought a smaller place near Round Rock, close to his new job. Nothing flashy. Simple, clean. A rental for now. He brings my grandson to the shop some weekends. Lets him bang metal with a rubber mallet while I supervise. The kid's 5, already smarter than I was at 15. Asked me once why the welds looked like stacked dimes. I said, because that's how you know it'll hold. He nodded like he understood something deeper. The trial had quiet moments too. One day during cross-examination, Lauren tried to cry. The tears came on cue. Trembling lip, hunched shoulders, tissue in hand. The defense leaned on her fragile state, said she had been manipulated by Monroe, said she had trauma in her background, that she wasn't the mastermind, just the vehicle. But Evan's testimony undercut that, and so did the audio. On one of the recordings, she'd laughed, said, Bill's heart is already halfway gone. We just have to wait for the rest of him to catch up. The jury heard that. 12 people in suits and jeans and sneakers. Ordinary folks. They heard it and the room changed. Some people can hide. Some people run. Lauren got neither. When I visited Henry's lake property the first time after the trial, I brought a thermos of black coffee and a tin of those little cinnamon cookies he used to like. Sat on the bench overlooking the water. Just me and the wind. I read his note again, the one he left in the envelope. The handwriting that had drawn blueprints, marked orders, labeled Christmas boxes. You're next, it had said. I think about that a lot. How close I came to being a name on a stone. How silence nearly killed us. Not her silence, mine. It's a strange thing being a father. You build a world with your hands. You weld joints so the frame holds. You reinforce what matters. Loyalty, discipline, grace under pressure. Then someone comes along and tries to unbuild it. Carefully, slowly, like unthreading stitches. Lauren's greatest weapon wasn't poison. It was suggestion. Let me help. You're tired. Why don't you let me handle it? Little things. Soft things. Offered like service but meant to erode. She didn't destroy trust. She rearranged it, pointed it toward herself. It worked. For a while. But Evan didn't break. Not all the way. He left the door open a crack. Just enough for the truth to get in. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd ignored the envelope. If I'd said, Henry was paranoid. If I'd thrown the flash drive in a drawer and gone on with my week. She would have cooked again. Different meat. Same method. I would have eaten. Felt dizzy. Maybe collapsed. They'd have said it was stress. My age. The blood pressure. And the will, the old one, would have defaulted to Emma and Evan. And Lauren? She'd have wept. Hugged Emma. Said how sorry she was. Worn black for a while. Then moved. Maybe Oregon again. Or Arizona. New name. New plan. She would have found someone else. She always did. After the conviction, we got messages. From people we didn't know. A woman in Reno said she recognized Lauren from a church group. Said her father died of undetermined causes 2 years after meeting her. A nurse from Spokane said a patient she'd cared for had a wife with the same eyes, same smile, same soft hands. That man died during a routine sedation for a colonoscopy. No autopsy was ever done. No one had proof. But the stories came. Little echoes. Turns out Henry wasn't the only one who'd paid attention. Evan doesn't like talking about the trial. Or the aftermath. He's building something now. A quieter life. Doesn't date. Still wears his ring, though I've never asked why. Emma visits every Thursday. Brings groceries. Helps around the house. Sometimes just sits. She once said, "You were right. About him." I told her, "No. Henry was." She nodded, then asked if she could see the files. We spent that night at the dining table going through the photos, the records, the transcripts. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, just read. At the end, she closed the folder and said, "She was never going to stop, was she?" "No," I said. "She wasn't." I made changes to my own estate, simplified everything. No ambiguity, no open doors. Evan's share is held in trust until his therapist signs off. Emma gets the house. The lake property stays in both names, for now. And the shop, that stays mine until I can teach the next generation how to run it right. We had a new sign made last week. Reynolds and Reynolds Custom Fabrication. Below that, EST 1993 Henry's bench still stands. A man from Tennessee stopped in. Said he'd seen our gates on a client's ranch. Wanted to commission a spiral staircase for his cabin. I told him we could do that. Showed him the designs. Took a deposit. Work goes on, like it always does. This morning, my granddaughter did her math homework at my kitchen table. She asked me why they make you borrow in subtraction if you never give it back. I told her not everything called borrowing is fair. She looked at me funny, then laughed. Drew a picture of a house next to her equation. Wrote Papa's house above it. Spelled Papa with 2 P's and a backward A. When she finished, she folded the paper, slid it into my coat pocket, and said, "Keep it forever." I will. It's not the file folder that proves anything. It's not the headstone or the autopsy or even the verdict. It's this, the small hands drawing, the way she leans on me when she's tired, the questions she asks, the room we're in, the world we rebuilt, slowly, one day at a time, without fear, without her, and always in the light.